Man, it's been a tough year. It's really been a tough year. In so many aspects, but I think um, I hope everybody found an outlet for their creativity in the last, you know, the year. Being really kind of snookered and shut into one thing for me is like a portrait photographer who's ideas to get up and into people's faces. And I kind of made a funny comment once that kind of stuck with me, like, as if you can't smell my camera, then I don't want to take your photo, or something along these lines. So um it's been really difficult for me because that's such my passion to do that, and not being able to do that was crazy. um but it has forced me to do other things, like a whole lot of drone photography that was crap. um but one thing I did do that was really great is I've been threatening to do this book for the last 5 years, and I've always had excuses, but I had a really nice run, so I've prepped a lot of images, and I'm kind of working on that. But enough of that. I'm a photographer. I'm a portrait photographer. I'm not sure how I became a portrait photographer. It wasn't the plan. It wasn't not the plan. I suppose when I really try and think about it, it's because I've always loved faces and animation, and watching the animation of people's faces, and seeing what I could tell. I played a lot of poker when I was younger, and I used to love looking at people to see if I could see their little things that would tell me what's going on. So I've always really loved that, and I suppose that just kind of kind of when I started taking photographs, that it was faces that interested me more. And then there was a kind of a big disconnect, which is something that we're going to talk about today, and or I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and that's when you start learning to be a photographer. I think the first things that you worry about, I mean, this is before digital, are your kind of your camera. What camera do I have? What settings do I use? What's aperture? What shutter speed? What differences do these make to the photograph I'm taking? And I think and then obviously lighting. How do I light it? How do I make it look good? What light do I need for this? And these are like two very important aspects of making a picture. But I think what happens often is that people sometimes get so drowned in the technical that they forget that they're dealing with a human being sitting in front of them. And I'm certainly very guilty of that. And one of the ideas for the book was to go back. I mean, I've gone back 20 years. And one of the ideas, the thing that the hook for the book was, you know, shots that I missed. And I missed them because I'm shots that I missed. In other words, I'm sorry. In other words, that were never used, that were never seen. And I think back 20 years ago, when I was 25 years ago, and I was kind of learning to take photographs and getting jobs, I was always kind of reaching for that one's perfectly sharp and the composition's perfect. And I didn't look further into the shoot to see what made it a portrait and not just a technically proficient photograph. So going back now, I've managed to kind of pick out some of these great shots that I just ignored 25 years ago. Obviously, my taste has changed, so that's definitely a part of it as well. But it's been really interesting to do that. And I think now, through experience or knowledge, the actual camera settings and stuff come very second nature. I mean, especially because if there's a lens, I open it wide and that's it. And digital photography is much more forgiving than film, and you can certainly see something as you take it. And all these things really have their benefits. So, look through your camera, take a couple of clicks, make sure everything's kind of looking where you're at. And then I spend my time communicating with my subject to get the portrait instead of just the photograph. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to start. I'm not sure if anybody knows any pictures I've taken, but I'm going to share my screen here, and I can talk about a few of my favorites. I love the shot of Bill Murray. Um, so much of making these photographs, and yeah, I've got this image to show you, and here it is, and I love it, and it's great, and it's funny. But so much for me about making this image is the experience of getting to be in the company of the people that I photographed. Now, obviously, I people pay more attention to my work because it is very celebrity laden. But I get the same pleasure from photographing somebody who is completely unknown to anybody apart from themselves or their family. I hate to say normal people because nobody's not, but somebody not well known, I get that same pleasure. Sometimes, obviously, with a celebrity, it can be interesting because of the experiences you have. So this shot of Bill Murray is really one that, you've heard, I'm sure people have heard the rumors that, Bill doesn't have a agent, Bill doesn't have a, publicist, Bill has a 1-800 number. I'm not sure what that is in the UK 1888, but a free phone number you call goes, "Hi, this is Bill Murray, leave a message." And he checks it or he doesn't check it or whatever. So when I got commissioned to do this from Esquire magazine, the editor-in-chief, David Granger, said to me, we want you to photograph Bill. I spoke to him on the golf course and he's up for it. He says, just call him on his cell phone this week. And he gave me Bill's cell phone number, Mr. Murray's cell phone number. Called the number. Hey, it's Mark Mann. I got an answering machine. Hey, it's Mark Mann, Esquire magazine, just calling to set something up. And then I was on a long drive upstate. When I stopped, I got my voice messages and he had called me back. He said, listen, I'm shooting in Brooklyn this week. I'm on set every night at 7:00. I show up at 6:00. We'll get your photo. And I'll see you one night this week. Don't care when. So get to Brooklyn, 5:00, 5:30. And he'd said, just come hang out in my trailer. Just tell them you're here for Bill. I didn't want to do that. So we get there a little early and my assistant and I are sitting in our car, just kind of checking our email, just waiting for things to happen. About half an hour later, I'm just on my phone. I feel like a knock on the side of my window and I look up and there's Bill Murray's face right at the glass. He goes, "You Mark from Esquire?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I told you to hang in my trailer. Come on." So we go in his trailer and, however much fun this is to be hanging out with Bill Murray, the bottom line is I got a job to do. I got to get a photograph. So I said, "So great." I said, "Mr. Murray." He goes, "You're going to call me doctor." So, okay, Dr. Murray. He made me call him doctor for the whole shoot. Hey, Dr. Murray, can we just get this photo? It'll take me 10 minutes to set up. He goes, no. We got time. Okay. And we're hanging out and telling stories and talking about golf. And he takes me out on the street where he's got a little grass mat in Brooklyn. And he's helping me with my 7-iron and like standing behind me. It was such a phenomenal experience just to be doing this, to have Bill Murray stories. But the bottom line is I didn't have my picture. So I said, Dr. Murray, can we take a picture? And he goes, "No, you know what? I'm going to see you work, right? You're going to take my picture, but I want you to see me work." Cut long story short, he puts his arm around me and he walks me onto set and introduces me to everyone as his special friend Mark. Melissa McCarthy's his co-star. "Hey, Melissa, it's my special friend Mark," and he's got, his arm around my shoulder, and it was just, it was so bizarre. Eventually, he sat down. We got the camera set up, and for 7 minutes, he just gave me the best facial expressions ever. And I got these shots. But that experience and getting to do that is so much of what makes the picture valuable to me. Sometimes the story is way better than the picture. Quite often with me, the story is way better than the picture, and sometimes kind of things come together, and the picture and the story work well together. So that's Bill. Um, Another one from the same series is Robin Williams. And I've got like half an hour stories for all of these guys, but the thing with Robin Williams was when I first met him and I introduced myself, he said, "Oh, you're Scottish." And he starts immediately going into like foul-mouthed Mrs. Doubtfire, things that Mrs. Doubtfire would never say. And I honestly, I think I was laughing so hard I nearly fainted. And then he kind of he went from Mrs. Doubtfire into Mel Gibson and Braveheart. And the accuracy of his accents, like Robin Williams doing an American, Australian guy, Mel Gibson, Australian guy doing a Scottish accent, and he nailed it. And then he went into Billy Connolly, who's one of my favorite comedians. Obviously, didn't know that. And we got, I would do, coming from Glasgow, Glasgow's very famous for its banter, its comedy. I mean, sometimes it's so depressing that all you got is comedy. Sometimes it's great. But, he could just do that. So when I was photographing, we played with this banter. And, I told him, I said something funny in a Scottish accent, and he just made this beautiful, genuine, happy laugh face. And it really sticks with me. And that was when, the communicating the soul of the picture, getting a communication, getting something going on between me and Mr. Williams actually created this picture. And if you go in deep, the eyes aren't sharp, a little blurry, tiny little bit. Composition's okay. Lighting's kind of where it could be, but it's not technically perfect or anything. But the communication that shows through on this, to me, is what makes it a portrait that I'm super fond of. I think I look at my favorite photographers out there, Penn, Avedon, all the great portrait photographers that have influenced me. And they talk about having made 10 or 15 pictures that they think are relevant and are work that should remember them by. And I think I've probably not made any yet, but I'm practicing. But if I were to choose like a couple, this would definitely be one that I really feel I achieved something special there. Sadly, he passed away, and it kind of made it even more special. This is Michael Douglas. This was interesting. I'm trying to make this bigger. I have to do that. I don't think I can. Anyway, this is Michael Douglas. I photographed Michael Douglas 3 or 4 times, and first time I photographed him, we had a really, took photographs for 4 or 5 minutes, and then I was in the studio. I said, "Hey, you want a coffee or something?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll have a coffee." And I made him a coffee, and we sat down and we just chatted. Chatted about everything. He was, he had a car downstairs waiting for him, and he didn't seem to be in a rush. And obviously, we didn't become like buddies, but we had a really good talk. And it was a wonderful experience. And it was just shortly after he had his throat cancer, and he was literally in the beginning stages of his recovery, and he was super grateful to be alive. And the shots from that time I really like, but maybe about 6 months later, he came to, this was shot up in Toronto, at the film festival, and he came up to our little studio that we had set up there. And when he came in, he just, "Hey, Mark," and it was really nice, because it's going to make that few minutes of, "How you doing? You feeling better? Everything going well?" Like just being able to have that real talk. And he sat down, he says, you know, I'm not in the mood for this today. I said, either am I. Come on, let's just get it done. And he just kind of lifted his head up and he gave me this stare. Um, and I just thought it just summed him up so much. And he's slightly pissed off, but he's still willing to. Oh, crazy dog. He's still willing to do what he had to do to be there. And this picture more, the composition kind of works where I want it to. The lighting really works where I want it to, and the expression's great. And I can see he's really doing something, even though he looks a little pissed off. So this picture really works for me as a picture that I'm fond of, and I'm also super fond of Michael Douglas. I just shot recently for something else, and it was also a lovely experience. Oh my God, her name's going out of my head. I can't remember her name. Moving on. So rude. Adam Driver is a really interesting character. I just wanted. There's something about this shot which I like because the intensity of the look is so intense, and the intensity of the look is so intense. A lot of intensity in his eyes. And he's a pretty intense guy, and he's a little camera shy. So definitely took a little bit of work to kind of get this into the camera and make it feel like an authentic moment, which it is. And I like it because I messed up the composition. Composition is not a standard, you know, like a composition that would be. So I'm just closing this window before I freeze. There we go. Composition is not, maybe I was more focused on the face and wasn't really looking at the composition. I think by a stroke of luck, more than anything, it works. You know, the white collar and the eyes being as high up as they are, and the kind of crooked nose, really works. But once again, this is about spending a few minutes with your subject and putting yourself somehow in a place where they feel very comfortable to be in this situation. And I think that's what I practice as a photographer all the time. Very often I'll practice with by taking photographs. Before the pandemic, something I used to do in New York, which was such fun, was like every few months I put out a call on Instagram. Hey, I'm doing portraits today. Anybody want a free portrait? Show up here at 2:00. I'm gonna, I'll photograph everybody who's in line from 2 till 2:30, and we get a few hundred people. It's amazing. And I bring them into the studio, and I have maybe 3 or 4 different sets. And I say, hey, you sit there, and then you sit there, and you sit there, and I basically go around and spend like 4 or 5 minutes with each person. And I love doing it because people really like having their picture taken and getting the picture. So I feel I'm giving something, but what I'm getting is so amazing. I'm getting this like real cold situation. I've never met you before. You've never met me. You've shown up on a Tuesday at 2:00. Let's get something happening. Let's how are you? What's going on? Where have you been? What's work? What do you have for lunch? Trying to provoke. Hey, sorry, Katie, can you close my door, please? Because Tenny, I can hear Tenny. Sorry about that. It's my 6-year-old. Just slam it, darling, or something. There we go. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So that's really good practice for me. And I take 100 people's picture in a day, and maybe 2 of them are kind of okay, and the rest are like, ooh. But it's really good practice. So that's one way that I practice making portraits. The other way, which is kind of just happens in everyday life, is that with every communication I have with somebody, I make an effort to think, if I was going to take this person's photograph, what can I provoke right now? Can I get a smile? Can I get a look of like, what? So, interactions with people and treating people as human beings and trying to have that interaction with somebody, whether it's the you go into a store and you're kind of dealing with a clerk and, or whoever's helping you in a store, and you say something, you think, I wonder if they're going to smile at that. And then if they don't smile, it's yeah, that's not their thing. What is their thing? And you say, oh, wow, you love your shoes. Where are your shoes from? See if that inspires some kind of passion in them or interest in them to have their face light up or have their face look shocked or tell them. So, that's how I really try and practice my art. And as I say, so much of it is to do with that interaction between you and whoever you're photographing. So really good to bear that in mind when making portraits. Christina Hendricks. This one is here because it's kind of the antithesis or paradox. I'm not sure what the right word is, but Christina Hendricks came into the studio and she's not feeling it that day. I don't, people have bad days. I have bad days. God, if you catch me on a bad day, you think, what a dick. Um, so people have bad days, and I always try and understand that somebody's having a bad day, doesn't want to be there. I don't know what went on with her family or her whatever. So, your always thing is to try and kind of just make it obvious that you're not going to be somebody who's going to be over demanding on how they move. Or this is what I do. Not to say it's for everyone, but not to be over demanding on them, not to go, look left, think about the rising sun. It doesn't work for me. I know it works for some people. I'm more about what you have for breakfast and is that still spinach in your teeth? That to me is more the way to communicate. But I said, good morning, Ms. Hendricks, and she smiled and she was very polite, but I could really see that she was just not in the mood. So I thought, I'm gonna walk away, and she sat down and she had I could kind of see her through the hair and makeup people that were doing her final bits and pieces. And I got to the camera and I lifted up the camera, and she was looking at the side, and I just said, how you doing? And she just kind of put her head down, her eyes closed, and then she very slowly lifted her head and gave me that look. And I took that frame. That was the first frame I took. I thought, okay, I got it. And I did nothing to earn that photograph. She's such a consummate professional. And she just knew that was the way to be photographed that day. I have another 50, 60 photographs, but none come quite as close as that. So, sometimes the photo gods just align and give you something special and take it. And what's nice about that is I knew I had that photo, and it was pretty much, I got to take some more because it's like kind of rude to take one, right? But after about 30 frames, I was genuinely able to say, Miss Hendricks, you're gorgeous. I got everything I need. I'm not going to get anything better. Get out of here and go and do what you want to do, for the day or whatever. So that was cool. Reese Witherspoon's a nice photo. I like it, but I don't think it's worth talking about. Oh, here's a good one. This is Mario Andretti, and you go to Mario Andretti's house to take a photograph, and it's Mario Andretti, who I grew up with, John Player Special, and I was just so enthralled to meet him, and he was one of the most lovely human beings I've ever photographed. And he has this lovely house. He has the base of his house is all kind of garages that it's kind of weird. I don't even know how to describe it, but he took us round and he showed us all the cars. He's got so many cars, the cars that he won with, and talked to us about racing and talked to us about photography. And it wasn't like the Bill Murray situation, because I knew he was going to have his photograph taken, and I could have spent all day there. But eventually it was like, hey, Mr. Andretti, let's get this picture. And I really, I don't often super plan out my lights. Um, I kind of take enough equipment to give me three or four options, or, I'll take a beauty dish and a bank, so I can make decisions. I always have enough lights, maybe I don't take a lot of lights, but maybe three heads or whatever. Um, and I had thought about it before, which is always dangerous for me because if I overthink it, I can mess it up. But I really wanted this kind of picture to show a statesman for his, an icon for his sport. And I really wanted it to be coming out of dark and that kind of um, Caravaggio type feel. I'm not comparing myself to Caravaggio in any way, shape, or form, but that kind of feel of coming out from the dark. And I set up the light, and he just had this ability to look through the camera at you. And obviously, I think I was telling him a story or trying to say something funny, and I see that little hint of expression that's about to happen in his mouth if he's about to speak or listening, but there's something going on. And it's one of my favorites. I really love this picture. So that's Mario Andretti. Got to Sesame Street to photograph the Muppets of Sesame Street. Just a great day, super fun experience. Really hard to communicate with puppets. They don't really do much. It was more like still life, which I'm not good at. Um, this is Francis Ford Coppola. Um, and it's a kind of it's this. All right, so Francis Ford Coppola is notorious for not having his picture taken or wanting to have his picture taken, but we got the opportunity. Somebody got the opportunity. It was for a magazine, and they thought, "We'll send Mark. He'll amuse him. Yeah, send Mark. He'll be able to handle him." So I was thinking, how am I going to what am I going to say to Ford Coppola? I like your movies. Godfather was pretty good. Um, Talk about wine. I don't know. I don't know anything about wine. So how do I know? So it was like, what am I? Well, where am I going to start with this guy that's going to just make make a connection and show him that I've thought about it and I'm sincere and authentic. So my wife actually, when I was discussing it with her, said, "Hey, why don't you take your old Graflex camera? I shoot a lot on an old 4x5 Graflex Super D from the 40s, 30s, 40s, and I have an old brass lens, and it's very big. It's 4x5. It's a single lens reflex, and you look down, and it's old and it's beautiful. And if you know anything about, well, not if you know anything, that's not true, but if you're passionate about photography and the history of photography and filmmaking, you know that this is something that's a historical thing. So thought that's a good idea. I'm going to take that and I'm going to shoot my first few frames um, on this old camera, and hopefully this will provoke a conversation and we'll make kind of the digital shots easier and whatever, or maybe we'll even get something from the film shots. So got it all set up, get it in there, and he comes in, and once again you could just see people just don't want to be there. It's just like, I got to do this. And he comes in, and I said, "Oh, such a pleasure, Mr. Coppola. If you could have a seat there." And he sits down, and I go to the side and I bring over this Graflex and I say, "I thought you might like to have your picture taken on this. You probably haven't seen one for a minute." And his eyes lit up. It's like, "Wow, it's an RB Super B. Wow, the old Graflex. Wow," and it really opened up this great conversation and talk about it. And I was trying to talk and shoot with this thing, and I totally messed up the 2 sheets of film that I had. So I didn't get to use them. Completely my fault. And Alex, my assistant, if you're watching, I don't blame you because it's my fault. Anyway, that didn't work. But we went on to get the digital photos. And although this one's not a very happy photo, um, I think it's intense, and I like it, and I like the light, and I like the sharpness of the mustache, and the eyes are a little blur, not blurry, but not as sharp, and I just like it, and I like the composition. But just like doing a little bit of homework there was going to interest him, I think, paid off and made for a better picture. David and Julian from the X Files. Julian from the X Files. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. So being invited to the White House as immigrant to America and getting the opportunity to photograph a sitting president is mind blowing. I mean, for me, it was mind blowing. When we made this, when we were commissioned, or I was commissioned by Esquire magazine to make this picture of Obama, Esquire kind of really wanted a white background shot, very clean, very Mark Mann type portrait, which I actually did, but this is the one that to me is more interesting for this. And the White House people pushed back. This is a very different political age than we're at right now. And it was at the time where a lot of people were demonizing the president, and the White House felt that putting him on a plain white background was going to make it. This is what we're hearing from the White House people, who all go a little crazy when you're constantly dealing with threats and problems. That they were worried about white background because they'd seen lots of people putting devil horns and making his eyes red, and we just wanted something more environmental. So I came up with a compromise. I said, let's do like an environmental portrait in, in the White House, and we'll have a seamless, but we'll stretch it out so it looks like more like a BTS. And they really went for it. And what was crazy was standing, and this is a diplomatic room, which is if you walk in either main door of the White House, and there's two corridors, and they both lead to this central room, and then there's a corridor this way that leads to the West Wing, and a corridor that leads to the East Wing, and this is where it's called the diplomat. It's the meeting room where if somebody comes off a helicopter, whatever, the president will meet them here. So we basically were shown into this room, and the creative director from Esquire, his name is David Cucurito. Hey, Dave. It's very hot. The air conditioning was not like pumping in the White House this August, and my creative director takes off his jacket and he throws it over this this yellow sofa that you can see there, and he throws it over the yellow sofa, and one of the Secret Service guys goes, "Just sir, the last person to sit on that sofa was probably Lincoln. Do you mind moving your jacket?" So, we realize we're in a museum, but I could talk about this photo with the experience for hours. But the other thing which happened, which really kind of made me makes it relevant to this talk, is, you're standing around and you're kind of waiting for the president, and you can hear the Secret Service radios, and you overhear POTUS leaving West Wing, POTUS traveling. And you're looking at the door, and I was seriously expecting somebody to come in and go, "Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama." But it's not like that, because it's his house. He just walks in the room and he says, "So what's happening, guys?" And I'm like, "Mr. President, could you stand on this little X?" And there's a little X somewhere at his feet. And he stands there, and I go, "Thank you." And I pick up my camera and I frame. And this is one of these early frames. And if you go in close on this photo, you can see he's not connected with me at all. And I think, wow, I haven't introduced myself. He doesn't know who I am. This is not who I am as a photographer. I'm going to forget that he's the president and try and make it like anything else. And I kind of put my camera down to down, and I walk towards him. And there's like, I can see like two Secret Service guys from each side coming in towards me, because I'm kind of stepping towards the president. And I get within like a few feet and I go, Mr. President, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mark Mann. I'm from Scotland. I've been commissioned. This is such an honor for me to be here. I'm probably being a blethering idiot right now, but I can't just stand and take your photo without introducing myself. And at that point, I can just hear my creative director go, keep taking photos. And we both kind of smile. The president smiles and okay. And I bring my camera back up and I start taking more photos. And we have a connection. And that connection lasted about 35 to 40 seconds, where I could just see his eyes glaze over. He's like in his next meeting. I think he was meeting with the president of Greece because the Greek economy was crashing. And I could just see it. And when I saw that happen, I just went, I think we got it, sir. Such a pleasure. And at that point, his eyes lit up. Whoa, I'm out of here. And he said, do you guys want some photos with me? And we all had photos with him, and it was just an exceptional experience. So I think I would have still got this shot, and I don't think I have the other one, but if you do a little research, you'll see a couple of more kind of my style with a close-up where he's connected. But I still would have got this shot, but I wouldn't have been able to leave the White House to say, oh yeah, I really met the president. So that was kind of cool. How are we doing on time?
Well, that's a great story. I didn't want to interrupt throughout any of that. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we can move on to some question and answers now.
Sure.
The first question that we actually have from Fayore is, can you give an idea of how the process takes shape for your assignment from Esquire to being with the client, such as who talks to who?
So, things are very different now because there's no magazines left, and, so much of what I came up on, and, a lot of the smaller publications don't pay for travel, so it's using locals. But the way it works, and I think this goes across the board for photographers, is the magazine comes up with an idea, or the magazine is pitched an idea by a publicist or somebody. But let's go with the magazine comes up with an idea. We're going to do a story on Barack Obama. They pitch it to the White House. The White House says, yeah, we'll do it for you. That's great. They have an internal meeting and they say, who's good to shoot this? And they call me. And they say, would you like to go photograph the president? And I go, yep, that'd be cool. And then I'm usually put in touch with I'm like then CC'd on emails between the publicists and everything. And then we usually go for a creative meeting with the creative director. And if it's an important shoot, maybe with the editor. I mean, now it's more phone calls and emails and Zooms, but back then you would actually get off your ass and go to the office and sit down and have a coffee and be human beings. They say, hey, we got 7 minutes with Obama. We want this, this, and this. How are you going to do it? And I'm going to go, well, I think we should try this. And then out of this creative meeting becomes a structure of what I'm going to do. And that's pretty much that process.
Brilliant answer. Thank you for that. Bajano has asked, he had the ability to look through the camera at you. Such a lovely idea. Could you please tell us if you've helped your subjects find this ability and how you do it? Thank you.
Once more, Sean.
So if you mentioned you had the ability to look through the camera at you, so getting the subjects to look through the camera at you. Yeah. Could you please tell us if you've helped your subjects find this ability and how you've done that?
Whoa, great question. I'm still a bit confused by it. Sean, help me here.
So have you helped your subjects sort of, I think, be more photographic or connect with the camera as such?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. That's the whole thing. I wish I had a camera here, but I'll use this empty seltzer can. So when I'm shooting, I'm looking at you and I'm talking to you, and I might bring the camera up, but I'm never going to stop that conversation. I'm never going to stop saying, so how was your day? What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear. So I, bring the camera down. So it's never this thing of like, hi, I'll be with you in a minute, and bring the camera up. So it's a constant conversation. And if you can do that and you practice and you can do it successfully, which we all can, it just takes some muscle memory, then all of a sudden they're not looking at a camera, they're looking at you and they're answering you. And that's the real communication. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think your visual demonstration there massively helped. It definitely helped me with that. And then the last question we seem to have here at the moment is, Leo has asked, extremely shallow depth of field seems difficult to work with. Do you have any hints?
Yeah, it's impossible. I shoot at 1.8 f2. The only hint I can give is, once again, that the key to making good photographs is practice. So yeah, practice at it. But the other thing is, don't beat yourself up too much. If with f2, if I'm doing one of my portraits, the eyelash could be pin sharp, and the eyeball might not be. Or if the person's sitting slightly at an angle, this eye's pin sharp, this one's not. If you're really looking for that shallow depth of field look, then give yourself a break and just accept that some of them aren't going to be as perfect as others. The other thing is slow down. You don't have to take thousands of photos. Take your time, talk through it. Take your time, work on your focus, whether it's autofocus. Keep talking. When you get it right, take the photo, but keep talking. So, muscle memory. And I just find like that machine gunning never works. I don't take a lot of pictures because I don't want to look at them afterwards. I don't like editing. So practice, slow down, take your time, take the ones that feel good.